and this one might just take the rest of the podcast because I don't know if this was grab ass or if this is just what we expected or if it was a little bit of both. Dave is going to run a victory lap here. Bronze medal. We present to Alabama. They beat USF 17-3. They played multiple quarterbacks in this game. Ty Simpson finished the game. Tyler Buchner started it. Combined passing stats, 107 yards, 43% completions percentage, and 4.7 yards per attempt. What the hell's going on here? Is this grab ass or is this just danger mode?
Here's the thing. Bama is who we thought they were, Ari. They're not good on the offensive line. They're not good at quarterback. They don't have receivers, and they're slightly above average at running back. There you go. Like, they can't score.
They're apparently awful on the offensive line. Pee Wee was right.
Yes.
Calling into the Nick Saban show, and Nick Saban being like, "Look, we're garbage on offensive line." And then you saw that. USF, which won one game last year, is teeing off on Alabama quarterbacks in this game.
Now, I will say, Chris, Nick Saban said after the game that they were running the most exotic pressures that Alabama will see all year.
Okay.
I'm sure that's true.
Not Orlando.
However, it highlights
putting the fear into Nick Saban.
I know. It highlights.
What does an exotic pressure consist of?
Just bringing guys from different spaces and making.
Sounded like a massage place to me. I mean, I could use.
It's making your offensive line communicate, which was a huge weakness for them last year. But the problem is, the thing about when one team does something, a lot of other teams are going to try to duplicate.
Yeah, you don't think LSU is going to bring some exotic blitzes now?
Yeah, that might be true. But dropping a defensive end into coverage and bringing in a linebacker off a stunt is not the craziest thing in the world. It's not like you can't install that in the week, right? So, I mean, this was them last year, and it's them this year. Anyway,
here's the thing that's most interesting about the Alabama team that's going forward now is we've seen 3 quarterbacks play for them this year. They're kind of down bad right now, and it's like we don't even know what should be next. Like, what quarterback should start? Who's been the best? Did anybody strike any confidence in you? I know when Simpson came into the game, there was one sack, like right on. I think it was the first drive that where he was parallel to the ground while in air, and I was like, God, this guy has no chance.
I thought it was weird we didn't see Milroe. I don't know what's going on there. That's weird.
You would think that Milroe would have came into the game because at least he's old steady, right?
Well, yeah. But even with his legs, the offensive line is breaking down, and just let him athlete it up against a team that he should be able to run around. You're not gonna be able to scramble and run and get free against Texas, but you should against USF, especially with the way the offensive line was playing. The fact that he didn't see the field is I'm wondering if there was something weird at practice this week, or I don't know what they saw, or maybe he's hurt. I don't know. But the fact that he never got the call in a game like this, and Ty Simpson gets one before him. It's weird.
I said
Xavier Weaver and Jimmy Horn on that USF team. Do they win today?
That's actually a good question, Max. I don't know. They might need a quarterback.
Every USF play was just a quarterback run from Byron Brown. Ended up with 92 yards on the ground.
I don't love USF's personnel. I think Golish is going to get them back to doing some good things.
If you put Milroe on that USF team, do they win today?
Yes.
I think it's like
yes.
So in our preseason group of podcasts, Manny and I did the oddly specific predictions podcast, and one of mine was that Alabama starts 3 quarterbacks throughout the season. We may get there by week 4 now, because Ty Simpson finishes 5 for 9, 73 yards. Was not great, but he wasn't terrible. Tyler Buchner was terrible, and if Jalen Milroe can't go for whatever reason, Ty Simpson maybe gets to start next week. But this, I think this should be the gold medal. I argued that this is the gold medal game. This was 10-3 until the final seconds of the game. This is Alabama in USF.
Yeah,
which won
my panic button is
one game last year, and this is their 3rd game with the new coach.
The reason why it didn't get the gold medal
and ruining your offensive line. This is the most stunning Alabama performance I've seen in 10 years at least. Yeah. This was crazy.
It's actually a good take, Chris.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Ari?
Well, the reason why I didn't get the gold medal is because grab ass is different than having real issues on your roster exposed. Yeah. That's to me, it's we're calling Texas grab ass because they were playing around with Wyoming and, it's
USF.
No,
I know, but we're
understand
not saying. I mean, Alabama was not just like, "Hey guys, quit screwing around." Like they were having a hard
Alabama
time
has like
moving
legitimate
balls into
trouble. Yeah, like
Well, they're getting in the red zone,
right.
and they're getting in the red zone. Ty Simpson's catching the snap, and he's got 3 guys in his chest like immediately. I'm like, oh my god!
We're not calling the Tennessee game a grab ass game. They just lost. You know, like
Yeah.
I think that it's surprising that Alabama is in this position against USF, but we're in a position right now where Alabama could be a legitimate 4 or 5 loss team if this is what they are. So, you know, I guess Jimmy Trimble just said it's a time for Alabama just to simply run the Wildcat with Jalen Milroe, and maybe it is, but the offensive line has been suspect. And last year, as Catherine B pointed out in the chat, Bryce Young did a really good job of making it less obvious to the viewer.
But let me ask you this: does this feel like this? I know we've said it a long time. Does this feel like it might be the end of the Saban dynasty?
No,
they're the team that we've seen. The team that we've seen this year,
an offensive line coach away from being fine.
I know one thing about
they don't got any wide receivers either.
The end of the dynasty predictions aren't coming from me. We've heard it before, and listen, they just signed a recruiting class last year with 9 5-star prospects in it. Julian Sands coming in next year. Like, I just don't know if Saban, with what he signed last year and what he's going to sign this year, could just even consider not seeing those classes through for at least the next 3 or 4 years.
Well, in the portal era, you can fix your quarterback issue overnight too.
I want to raise you the way too hot take. Is this Alabama team 22 A&M? Are they very talented, but they're just weirdly like losing a bunch of close games this year?
No, only 5 and 7 bad.
I'm not saying losing record. I'm saying like, are they like the most underwhelming team of the year potentially?
They have to be. Like, you always point out the average kid on this team is a top 100 player. Like,
it is, yeah.
I know they have a great recruiting class coming in, but they have a great recruiting class every year, and what they have right now is
I know, but when you bring in 9 5-stars into one class, that's 10% of your roster. I'm just saying Saban's not retiring with this coming in. So I just like, I feel like Saban, I guess, like, yeah, Durs here says with that logic, Saban will never retire. And maybe that's the case. I don't know. Nobody's ever signed 9 5-stars in one class before. So I just I don't know. I declared that there was a chance. I thought maybe that it was starting to slip a few years ago, and then they won the national championship the following year. So I don't know what the end of the Nick Saban dynasty is going to look like. It's been the greatest run maybe in the history of the game. And I just think that he's probably earned a little bit more credit in my mind than just like.
And for the record, Ari, I think if you told me that Nick Saban would never retire as long as he's physically able to do what he feels like he needs to do, I think I would take that bet. He's not just going to walk away. I think it's in his blood that he's just going to keep coaching until he probably can't.
Also, he looks like really young and healthy, and like it's not like he's like having a hard time. I have more questions about Deion Sanders' long-term health at this point than I do about Nick Saban. So
I do have a bit of good news for Nick Saban. His first game at Michigan State in 1995, they gave up 666 yards to Nebraska, the most Michigan State has ever given up. That record was broken today by Washington, so Nick Saban no longer has that on his resume.
It's not a bad day. I'll take that. Get a win on the road and get a record expunged from the record books.
So Alabama's never going to play at a G5 team again after this.
Yeah, we saw all 3 quarterbacks now in the last 2 weeks. Was today like good for Milroe? Basically, seeing the other 2 guys, like, I mean, I know they played in the monsoon, right?
Well, there is a 4th
for that. That's not really like totally fair to Buckner to keep playing in those conditions. But like, if Nick Saban is saying we've played the guys who played the best during the week and stuff like, are we truly going week to week here with this decision?
I mean, maybe. I don't feel much differently about the quarterbacks than I did come into the season. That I still think Milroe probably has the highest ceiling. I don't think.
I thought they'd probably just like run for 300 a day and be like, "Hey, we fixed quarterback." You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but that didn't really happen either.
Yeah.
And Ari, you did tease there's a 4th guy. I'm curious if we get some Dylan Lonergan.
Well, and I've heard he's looked really good.
They were high on him in camp.
Yeah,
there was like a lot of buzz, and I was like, "Why did he take this seriously?"
And also, it's not like it's so weird for a freshman to start. Like, it happens all the time. And
here's the thing, though: if your offensive line is that bad, I don't think it really matters, and I don't think you want to put a freshman behind that. I think it's got to be Milroe at this point, just because he's the only guy who can escape pressure.